Everyone thinks Vikings were these fearless, muscle-packed warriors sailing across icy seas, raiding kingdoms, and living their best barbarian lives. Hollywood made them look like the original gym bros with axes. But here's the truth. Being a Viking, it absolutely sucked. First off, forget the image of endless feasts and shiny helmets. Real Viking life was like surviving on hard mode. These guys lived in freezing Scandinavia, where winter lasted 9 months and summer was basically 3 weeks of wet disappointment. Imagine trying to farm in land that hates plants. Yeah, that's how you start your day before even thinking about a raid. Most Vikings weren't raiding England or discovering America. Nope, 90% of them were just trying not to die of frostbite, starvation, or each other's smell, because hygiene. That wasn't a thing. They bathed maybe once a week, which was considered clean back then. But when you're surrounded by goats, mud, and other unwashed humans, clean is just a vibe. And let's talk food. No pizza, no ramen, no anything good. Just barley porridge, some fish, and maybe a questionable piece of seal meat if you were lucky. Want dessert? Congratulations, it's dried cod. Even their drinks were questionable. Fermented goat milk and warm mead. Because nothing says party like drinking honey beer while praying you're done to get dysentery. Oh, and those famous Viking raids. Yeah, not everyone got to go. You had to be strong, healthy, and own a boat, which was basically like owning a private jet in 800 AD. So, most Vikings were stuck back home farming rocks and hoping their raiding buddies didn't come back to steal their stuff. But let's say you did make it onto a longship. Congrats. Now prepare for 3 weeks of pure misery. Imagine 60 sweaty men crammed on one boat, rowing for hours, eating dried fish and sleeping next to someone's feet. No Wi-Fi, no toilet, just ocean and regret. And if the weather turned bad, one good wave and boom, you're fish food. If you somehow survived the journey and reached England, congrats again. You get to risk your life fighting angry Saxons with rusty swords. And if you win, great. You might get some gold, or maybe a chicken. But if you lose, well, let's just say Viking funerals look cool for a reason. Speaking of which, Viking heaven, also known as Valhalla, sounds epic, right? A giant hall where you drink and fight forever. But think about that, literally forever. Imagine dying, then realizing your afterlife is just an eternal bar fight. You can't even rest in peace without getting hit by an axe every morning. And don't let the movies fool you about Viking women either. Yes, some were powerful and independent, absolute legends. But most lived lives of constant hard labor, childbirth, and trying not to freeze in a house full of smoke because chimney design wasn't tea invented yet. Vikings were basically playing Survivor every day, except nobody wins. Their medical care? Don't even ask. You get stabbed, they rub moss on it. You lose a tooth, congratulations, that's your new look forever. Life expectancy. If you made it past 40, you were basically a wizard. And remember the horned helmets? Yeah, total myth. They never wore those. But sure, let's thank 19th century artists for that Halloween costume idea. Real Viking helmets were plain, heavy, and smelled like the inside of a goat's shoe. The funny thing is, despite all this misery, Vikings still managed to be legends. They built ships that reached America before Columbus, traded with the Middle East, and left behind sagas that we still talk about 1,000 years later. Not bad for a bunch of cold, hungry farmers with trust issues. So next time you imagine yourself as a mighty Viking warrior, remember this. Your life would mostly be freezing, rowing, and dying early. The only raid you'd be leading is on your neighbor's chicken coop. In the end, the Viking era wasn't about glory. It was about survival. And somehow, through all the cold, hunger, and chaos, they carved out a legacy that still echoes today. But make no mistake, behind every epic Viking saga is one universal truth. It really, really sucked to be a Viking.